Welcome back to the Nursing Post podcast. You are here with myself, Ashley, and Rosa. And today in this episode, we're going to talk about monkeypox. And just remember, our goal is always to inform and spark conversation.
Well, I think this has been sparking conversation since the first outbreak was reported. And I think, just from watching the news and really it being so saturated, most people probably know what monkeypox is.
Yeah.
But for those who do not, according to the CDC, monkeypox is a rare disease caused by an infection with the monkeypox virus.
Yep.
The monkeypox virus is part of the same family of viruses as the variola viruses, such as smallpox. And monkeypox symptoms are similar to smallpox symptoms, but milder. And monkeypox is rarely fatal. It is not related to chickenpox.
No. I never thought about that, but I guess I can see where that could be thought about. So some statistics, which are always interesting. As of right now, globally, as of September 7th, global cases 46,724 total. 21,274 confirmed monkeypox or orthopox virus cases were in the U.S. With men accounting for 98% of those cases, and men who say they had recent sexual contact with another man is 93% of those cases. New York has the most amount of cases at 3,117. Wyoming is the least with 1. And the most affected demographic of people are men aged 31 to 35 with 2,331 cases. And the most affected racial group or ethnic group are whites, blacks, and Latinos. 460,000 doses have been given to try to help offset the monkeypox virus, and 98.6% of people presented with a rash, followed by malaise at 72.7%. That followed fever at 72.1% and chills at 68.9%. So, to me, that's very kind of like flu-like symptoms. It's
Those are viral.
yes.
When you think about it, most viruses, with the exception of sometimes the rash,
Yeah.
that's pretty much what a virus feels like. Feels like the flu, feels like a cold, The difference is this horrendous, painful rash that people are saying, is associated with monkeypox.
Right, the lesions, right.
So monkeypox is not new.
No.
It was actually discovered in 1958 when 2 outbreaks amongst wildlife were infected. The actual cause of how they were infected is unknown, but it was suspected that it was from rodent and non-human primates that were carrying these viruses that, affected the wildlife, then, as kind of, jumps over. So the first person who was actually diagnosed, like the first human being, occurred in 1970. So this virus by no means is new at all.
No.
How do we catch it? Well, WHO and the CDC say that you can catch monkeypox with direct contact to the rash, the scabs, or bodily fluids from persons with monkeypox. So touching objects and fabrics like clothing, bedding, and towels and surfaces that have been used by someone with monkeypox, contact with respiratory secretions, and a pregnant person can spread the virus to their fetus through the placenta.
And there are a couple of common symptoms that are associated with it. We just touched a little bit on that. It's fever, headache, muscle ache, backache, swollen lymph nodes, chills, exhaustion, respiratory symptoms like a sore throat, nasal congestion, cough, a rash that may be located near the genitals, so your penis, testicles, labia, vagina, or the anus, but it could also be in other places. It could still be on your hands, feet, chest, face, mouth. So it's not isolated to just the genitalia. The rash will go through several stages, including scabs before healing. And the rash can almost look like pimples or blisters or pustules, and they can be very painful and they can itch. So that's, I think, probably the biggest part of monkeypox that people are struggling with is those painful lesions or pustules or whatever you want to call them.
And you don't have to have all these symptoms. You may have
Uh-uh.
one, you may have several, but I think the most definite one is that rash.
Yes.
The monkeypox symptoms usually start within 3 weeks of exposure to the virus.
Hmm.
If someone has flu-like symptoms, they will usually develop a rash 1 to 4 days later. It can be spread from the time symptoms start until the rash is healed, all the scabs have fallen off, and a fresh layer of skin has formed. The
Right.
illness typically lasts about 2 to 4 weeks.
So there's not any treatment for this viral infection. Um, since monkeypox and smallpox viruses are similar, um, which means like the antiviral drugs and vaccines that we use for smallpox, we're using for monkeypox because they're similar. Um, so you have this, I'm probably going to butcher this name, but it's tectovirimat or TPOXX. That's an antiviral. And it may be recommended for people who are likely to get severely ill. So those patients who have a weakened or compromised immune system, essentially, are the ones. But most of this is going to be what we call supportive care. So treating the symptoms as much as you can. And I know necessarily it's not a treatment, but for patients who are in a high risk population, making sure that you have that smallpox vaccine can be very, very helpful.
It's very important. In the beginning of this, there were a lot of negative connotations
Hmm.
that were associated with the virus.
Yep.
And in the beginning, I I was very much, and I still kind of am very disgusted by it. I understand, science. I follow the numbers. I
Hmm.
follow the research. That's just the nurse in me. Um, However, I do feel like a lot of things have been political as well. And before we even had like all the statistics and all the facts, the LBGTQ plus community was coming under such scrutiny
Yeah.
and fire by being strongly associated with monkeypox.
Hmm.
And in the beginning of this, it was not even categorized as an STI, but
And
because of how it was being packaged
right.
and delivered, that's the connotation it took. And
Hmm.
it kind of gave me like PTSD from, how the whole, HIV epidemic,
Yeah.
started, where, back in the day, they slowly, tried to place the blame on the LBGTQ plus community.
And we know now
So I have
that
had, yeah, I've had
that is not the
feelings
case.
about it,
Yeah.
completely understand, that this is currently the population that is most affected. However, there are certain disparities that are still happening even after COVID and the pandemic that I just see happening all over again. And
Yeah.
so I do not feel as if we have all the numbers that we should, would, and could have if these disparities did not exist.
Well, there's been a couple reports, and Rosa, I know you and I were just actually looking at a couple
Mhm.
where Black and Latino gay men, or men who have sex with men, however you want to frame it, are being affected much more than other groups. However, that read an article, and it was kind of eye-opening, and it made sense, and it kind of goes back to what you were saying with the disparities. And this was from Scientific American, and this is always linked, but it talked about a man who was in line to get a vaccine. I believe he is African American, and of course, he's looking at this line, and he's like, besides me and my friend, the entire line was full of white people. So we're not getting information and appropriate preventative care to the Latino and African American community.
I'm just I'm kind of disgusted pretty much about how we've handled a lot of these um medical emergencies. COVID was absolutely handled disgustingly. And in the beginning, I feel like it was almost pretty much handled as a joke, um, with the whole drink the bleach and, pretty much just suntan your way out of COVID. And I feel like it's happening all over again. And there's such a distrust in the ethnic community
Mhm.
and the community of BIPOC peoples because of that. And so you would think that we learned our lesson from COVID and that we would fix it, or at least try to fix it,
Mhm.
so that it's not happening again with another disease that's transmittable.
Right. And reading, several of the articles as of right now, which we're recording this, what is it, September 10th. The CDC and the WHO group, they are not and have not labeled this as a sexually transmitted disease, although that's where the majority, over 90% in a lot of the countries that have done small case studies. And I know that they're small because there's not that many cases as of right now, especially compared to, other viruses. But it's amazing to me that we know at least right now who is being affected, and I feel like some of the answers to this are simple. If you go to those communities, and typically that's not highly difficult to do. If you know a community that is suffering, then that should make it a little easier to target, because you know who it is, to
Hmm.
be able to give um, the vaccine, the smallpox vaccine, to those people to help with the possibility of monkeypox transmission. But only 10% of the monkeypox vaccine doses have been given to Black people, even though that we know that they're disproportionately affected.
Where are my Latinx people? Where are my Latinos and Latinas? Like,
Mhm.
they're not even, like, what?
Right.
Like, where are we? And I'm
So,
not trying to be funny. They're,
uh,
the LGBTQ plus community are not the only people having sex. Uh, you know,
no,
I'm letting you know for a fact that they are not the only ones out there having sex.
no. About half of the vaccine recipients were white, and a quarter were Hispanic, 10% were Black, and 10% were Asian. 94% were identified as male, and 6% as female. So at least that's headed in the right direction. And more than half were between the ages of 29 and 39, which is also appropriate. I wonder, and would love somebody from that specific demographic. So, a Black or Hispanic male who has sex with a man to speak on this and say why not go get vaccinated? What is a holdup? Do they not know where to go? Are we not saying, hey, where do you need to go to get vaccinated? Who do you need to reach out to? Where do they start? And from that point, see what education is needed. And what better way than to ask the people that are being affected? I mean, that seems easy enough to do. I mean, the government can pull numbers for everything else.
Absolutely. So these are my trains of thoughts here. You have the head of the train, and then the caboose and all that, the stuff between, and then the caboose. So, like, we know it's a virus.
Yep.
It's not right now an STI. So we always know that, one, we have to properly wash our hands to
Yeah.
minimize, the spread and the risk. Okay.
Mhm.
If you don't know how to wash your hands post COVID, there is something really, really wrong with this picture
Yep.
and situation. And it doesn't mean go buy all the hand sanitizer like in COVID,
Yeah.
which I still do not quite grasp. But when you're supposed to be washing
It's
your
because
hands with
Americans are
soap,
lazy. I'm going to
I
go ahead and
just,
group us in that lazy
I'm
category. And
still
I know not
baffled
every
by
American's
it.
lazy. Yeah.
I'm still baffled. I can't get over it.
There are still times you
Soap,
need to wash your hands.
soap and water.
Oh yeah. Is the gold standard.
I mean, I don't
And the amount
understand.
of nurses that wash their hands and then use hand sanitizer afterwards.
No,
just
I'm
to make
probably the one that uses hand sanitizer first and then washes my hands. I will own that. I do that. I
Yeah.
do that. Um, Secondly, you want to avoid close contact, skin to skin, with people who have a rash
Mhm.
that look like,
Yeah.
monkeypox. And even though it is not chickenpox, a rash that
No.
has blisters, pustules, any type of rash, I'd be saying thank you, but no thank you.
Well, and
And
if somebody has any kind of lesion on their genital, it's a
I
no-go.
was just about to say that.
That's a no-go.
I was watching something the other day, and it was from an OBGYN. It was actually on TikTok, and the OBGYN was doing her top 5 things that she would never ever do. And I think her number 1 was she would never sleep with someone without looking at the goods. And
Yeah.
she said, if it doesn't look right, if you see something that's funny, if you see a bump, a rash, or anything, that's a no-go.
Yeah,
And that was
you might
ever
want the
more
light off, but you
accurate.
need to give it a quick glance
That's
first.
right. Like, nope, lights on and then lights off,
Yeah.
but that's exactly what she said. Take a good look. And if there's absolutely anything on that, it's a no-go. Avoid contact with objects and materials that a person with monkeypox has used. These people, they do have rashes, unfortunately. Unfortunately, we are humans. We touch things. For
Yeah.
some reason, a lot of us don't wash our hands. And then this is what we're doing. We're rubbing our eyes. We're all in our nose. We're all like this. So you're going to see this rash.
Yeah.
You're going to see it on your hands. You're going to see it on faces, arms, legs. Practicing proper hygiene and cleaning that we learned from COVID will help slow the spread of the virus. And as nurses, we just need to make sure that we're advocating for our patients. Doesn't matter whether they're white, black, indigenous, purple with pink polka dots, Latinx, a certain type of religion. LBGTQ plus. I don't care, if they came from Mars. Like, we should be advocating for all of our patients. And my last little tidbit, the caboose, is that your local doctor's office does not have all the vaccines that are required. So instead of flooding your PCP's office, flood your local health department because they are the ones that carry all of the immunizations. And just because you were immunized as a child doesn't mean that you don't need boosters and
Mhm.
titers. So hit up your local health department because that's where you're going to want to go for your boosters and your titers.
Mhm.
And if it's been a minute since you've had your smallpox vaccine, go get a booster. Be part of the solution and not part of the problem.
It's funny you say that because one of the things I was thinking with, right now this is not labeled as an STI. I personally believe it's only a matter of time before it is. The numbers are too highly associated with sexual transmission. I don't think that it'll be, you know, able just to stay as a normal virus. But the positive to that may be is that the health department does deal a lot with sexually transmitted diseases. So maybe that will help because that is a great place that there's a health department pretty much in every community that can help navigate and help patients to be like, okay, they see STIs all the time. So it's probably one of the least judgmental places that you can walk into and say, I'm a gay male, that's 32 years old and high risk for monkeypox. What can I do? They're probably going to be like, bless you. Do you have any friends? Bring them with you and
Mhm.
we'll do like, a date of it because it's easier to prevent infection than it is to get on top of it once it's done. And even though this is not really a deadly virus, it is still a
Two people
painful.
have passed
Yes.
already.
And I mean, and that's a very small number, a percentage,
Absolutely.
but it's not small to those families.
Absolutely.
So we can't forget that even though your risk of death is low, that person's family didn't care. It still means the world to them that their family member's not there, their family and or friends. So just maybe in the as a thinking just out loud, having this being labeled as an STI would be a good thing, as in it would get to the health departments and get the people that don't know where to go at least some proper care.
And proper direction.
Mm.
Absolutely. And I know they are trying all sorts of different types of, medications as
Mm.
well, like antivirals, because, the symptoms of the pain and whatnot are so severe. And I just want to put in like a very friendly reminder that with any antibiotic or antiviral that you're taking it the way that it's prescribed until
Yes.
it's all gone so that
Yes.
you're not causing super
Mhm.
viruses. Because if you think monkeypox is bad now, remember viruses change, strains change, and the last thing that anybody needs right now is super monkeypox.
That's very that's very, very true and a very valid point.
Just thinking
Um,
ahead.
it's the little things that we sometimes forget to drill home those fundamentals to not
Nursing
cause
101.
not cause a bigger problem than we already have because we already know that there are super STIs it's
And I hear
a
this
real
thing is
problem.
already super painful, so I don't want to know what a super monkeypox is going to do to anybody. So
Well,
please take
sure.
your medicine like as
And not only
directed
that,
until it's done.
but this lasts 2 to 4 weeks. So I mean, that's people that are missing work, and that's a huge burden on them and their families. And like I said, their friends or how whatever their arrangement may be. So there's a lot more to this than just whether it's an STI or not, and
Mhm.
remembering that just because it affects gay men more does not mean it doesn't affect everybody else. Uh,
Absolutely.
like Rosa had said at the beginning of this, when the whole HIV AIDS pandemic hit, it was like, I don't want to touch a telephone on a telephone booth. That shows you how old I am. Because they were scared that they were going to get HIV or AIDS. That was actually in a video that I watched. It's like, well, you can't catch this from the telephone booth. You probably watched the same thing in school. And that was and this is similar, it might be disproportionately affecting gay people as of right now, but that does not mean anything.
Absolutely. Just like we saw that change in the HIV
Mhm.
pandemic and how it began, so to speak,
Yeah.
with the LGBTQ plus, it
Mhm.
quickly changed to any and everybody, and it was a disease that absolutely did not discriminate. So
Right.
please, nurses, make sure that you advocate and that you're compassionate and that you're very non-judgmental.
Yes, I agree. Well, I think that perfectly summed everything up. You can visit our website, the Nursing Post LLC.com. That our show notes and our articles that we talked about today will all be linked in our show notes. So you can go and read them. They're actually really great. There's good information in those. And I suggest people do that. It gives a lot of good numbers and studies as well. And you can subscribe to our podcast and shop in our store on our website. And we'd be happy to hear from you. Love to hear your comments and have some conversation.
Thanks again for listening to the Nursing Post.